Good day, and it sure is a good day because the car we're driving right now is the 2024 BMW Z4 sDrive20i M Sport, and this is one phenomenal car to drive in terms of how exciting it is. Okay, let's start with the power that it has. So what you have here is a 2-liter turbocharged gasoline engine making 197 horsepower and 320 Newton meters of torque paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission. BMW says that you can do the 0 to 100 sprint in only 6.6 seconds. And can you feel it? Yes, you definitely can. Now, 197 horsepower really doesn't sound like much, and it truly isn't. But you do have to remember that this car only weighs around 1.4 tons, making it a super light car. Combine that with its super small dimension, the handling of an amazing tiny roadster, this just excites you so much. Oh, one more thing, you even have a 50-50 weight distribution over here, so really you can just chuck this around corners. It really is the classic recipe for a tiny roadster. Ooh. Now, if you do turn off traction control, this car is also a super tail happy vehicle. The front end also feels pretty light, so pointing it in the exact direction you want it to will be no issue whatsoever. But anyway, let's go back to the power first. So 197 horsepower, really, it's not too much, right? But because of the amazing 8-speed ZF automatic transmission that BMW put in here, it just puts all that power to the ground super efficiently. The shifts are super crisp as well. It is about as fast as a dual clutch transmission, so you never really feel lacking in this one. And I know also that it's not too much more power compared to a Mazda MX-5, a Miata, but it feels much faster than that. It feels a lot more exciting than that. But to add even more excitement to your Z4 driving experience, of course, would be the soft top, which now returns to this generation of the Z4, one that we lost out on in the last generation. Now, don't worry as well, you can operate this even while you are driving if it suddenly rains, because this works up to speeds of 50 kilometers per hour and only operates in just 10 seconds. So it is pretty quick, it just is so versatile, and BMW does throw in this diffuser, this deflector at the back, which makes sure that your hairdo stays moderately okay and that you don't get any sort of buffeting here on the inside. Now, what I really love most about the BMW Z4 is whether or not you do have the roof up or down, you're gonna enjoy a lot of the exhaust note. It does a lot of crackles, especially when you upshift while going at high revs. But there is a slight trade-off to that. While the crackles are real, the exhaust note that you get from this tiny 2-liter engine leaves a little bit more to be desired. And so BMW has done something to remedy that. They gave you tons of speakers in here which pump out fake exhaust notes. And is it convincing? I gotta say that it is pretty damn convincing, because I've been driving this car around for the past 3 days, and only last night that I realized that there are fake exhaust notes. So all the while I thought they were real. Does it add to the driving experience? I would say so, which is the same as when I drove the Civic Type R. You know it's fake, but does it make you happier? Oh yes, it really does make you a lot happier when you drive this. So since we are driving this tiny roadster, you might expect that noise, vibration, and harshness would be a bad thing. So let's start off with noise, right? Obviously, with the top down, you're gonna hear lots of wind noise. I mean, no surprise there, right? But let me just show you. Let me just operate this roof again. Let me just go down below 50 kilometers per hour over here. Okay, I'm showing you this in real time. There we go. And once the roof is closed, it gets pretty quiet in here. Now, the only time that you will ever hear any sort of annoying sounds from the outside is when you are beside literally any diesel car in traffic. Yes, their engine noises will permeate inside the cabin. So yeah, that could be slightly annoying, but with the Z4, you can just accelerate out of that traffic area once the green light comes on, which leaves them in dust, and you will no longer hear those diesel rumbles. As for vibrations too, this engine is super smooth. And as for harshness, this is another surprising thing, because you would usually expect these tiny cars, these sporty vehicles, to be horrible for your back, but Surprisingly, it's not. It's a very supple feeling car with the exception of when you are going in extremely choppy roads. So if you want to daily drive this car, it's a go. It's a go, man, because I've driven the BMW 3 Series as well, and it wasn't even the M Sport model, and it rode worse than this. This literally rides more comfortable compared to a 3 Series. Now, speaking of daily driving this vehicle, there's a couple of things too that it has. So let's start off with the brakes. The brakes are pretty powerful when you do have to come to a quick stop. However, for daily city driving, I find it to be a little bit too grabby. It's not a very linear braking experience. It's a very sport-oriented braking system. So what happens is, if you're creeping along in traffic and you have to come to a complete stop, it tends to get a little bit jerky. Yes, that's slightly annoying. Second would be the steering. It is perfect for your daily driving needs. It's so light. Even if you put this in sport or even the Sport Plus mode, it truly is just so relaxing to drive. However, now the trade-off for that light steering is, I don't know why BMW did it for such a sporty car, but they didn't give you enough feedback for it. The 3 Series has a little bit more feedback than this. Really, really odd. It is precise, it is accurate, but I just wish I could feel the front tires just a little bit more. Since this car doesn't really have too much pillars on it, you'd expect visibility to be good. But since it is a roadster, you'd expect it to be bad, right? So is it good or bad? Well, it's both good and bad, because with the top up, of course, it is pretty bad because you can't really see much out of this side. But I mean, it just takes 10 seconds again for that roof to go down, which makes visibility 100%. Yes, you can now see everything out of this vehicle. Finally, one question I'm sure you're gonna ask me is, Kyle, how's the AC? Is it cold enough? Well, if the roof is closed, obviously it is. It is a tiny car after all. But when the roof is open, yes, it is still more than enough. So as long as you just blast the AC at around 3/4 the fan speed and above, you'll be perfectly fine in here, even on a hot noontime Philippine summer day. Excellent. So now with the important driving bits taken care of, let's now take a look at this vehicle from the exterior. And do you know that this BMW Z4 sDrive20i comes in the M Sport package exclusively, at least here in the Philippines. And what do you get for this M Sport package? Well, first of all, you get a suspension that is 10 millimeters lower, which makes it just a little bit more stable, which also kind of explains its amazing handling. Now here on the front too, you get a slightly different grille. You get chrome, like a silver painted surrounds on it. Of course, adaptive LED headlights. There are no fog lights there by the bottom though, but yeah, at least that makes this entire front end look really clean. You'll also notice just how long the hood is, which gives it its very nice 50-50 weight distribution. Now on the side of the vehicle, you'll also notice just how small this car is in terms of its length and how wide this car is. Plus, for your rims, you get 18-inch rims wrapped in a set of Michelin Pilot Super Sport tires. So these aren't your regular Pilot Sport 4 tires, these are Super Sports. Unfortunately, despite being part of the M Sport package, you do not get your M brake calipers. But yeah, no matter, the brakes are still pretty good as is. Now, you also notice a couple of vents here by the side. These are real, and that's to prevent any sort of like air turbulence here by the wheel well. Now for the rear of the BMW Z4, you'll notice just how short the overhang is. And the general design for this rear end is just very premium looking, befitting a proper BMW. Now instead of giving you any sort of ricery, ginormous wing, you only have a very subtle, tiny spoiler over here. And if you look down below, despite it having just a 2-liter engine, you get twin exhaust pipes that are both legitimate. Now also, since compared to its predecessor, it now uses a soft top, which doesn't really take up too much space. Once you do open up your trunk, what you'll see here is a pretty usable trunk that's able to fit one large suitcase, and you have 281 liters of space in here. Unfortunately, I do not think that a set of golf clubs will fit in here though. There is a tiny pass-through, but it is too tiny for your entire golf bag. Maybe 5 or 6 sticks of clubs. That's the only thing you can fit back here. Now, let's move on to the key of the BMW, and it looks pretty cool, especially for this M Sport package, because you have the M Sport colors over there. So if you just hold down your lock button, that will close your roof. So If, for example, you're at a cafe and it suddenly rains while you're looking at your beautiful Z4, just hold this down and it'll close again in just 10 seconds. Hold down the unlock button instead and it'll do the reverse. Pretty nifty. Moving inside right now, and we first check the door. Given that it's a BMW and you have really long coupe doors, of course, it sounds amazing. So the interior of the BMW Z4, it's about as simple as it gets. It is a tiny car after all. But since you do get the M Sport package, you have a very thick steering wheel that's really nice to grip. Get paddle shifters on it, and it's also tilt and telescoping in terms of adjustments. Now, speaking of adjustments too, the seats are so comfy. Also, these M Sport semi-bucket seats, and the adjustability of it is just excellent. Like, we're talking about electric adjustments for both of these seats, and you can even adjust the bolsters electrically, and both seats get memory functions, 2 settings too while you're at that. That is really good. So the materials they use in here, they are top-notch, really soft touch materials on the dashboard, even here where your your knees would hit, and of course your doors too. They're all covered in like this leatherette. And also, the screens, they look pretty high-tech because you do get a digital instrument cluster, although honestly, it's a little bit hard to read at times, especially when you're going at speed. And for your infotainment screen, that is a 10.3-inch touchscreen running iDrive7, the easier BMW OS to use. It's so much easier than the new BMW iDrive8 with that curved display. This admittedly doesn't look as good, but it just is so much easier to use. It even comes with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And also, you do get physical buttons for your dual AC system. Yay! Where did that go in the BMW iDrive8? Now, this center console is also really nice. Looks pretty modern. You have a nice shifter. This is where you control your drive modes, which includes Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus, Sport Individual, Eco Pro. You also get Auto Hold, an electronic parking brake, as well as the button or the switch to operate that roof. Now, one thing I'm not a big fan of the Z4 is your cup holders. So can you tell me where the cup holders are? I'm pretty sure you can't. That's here by your center armrest. So once you open that, that's the only way you can use your cup holder. So if I get this big jug of mine, for example, and I shove it in here, that's a tad bit uncomfortable. Although I can fold down half of it to be able to use half of it. But then what about my passenger? They didn't really think that through now, did they? Now remember in the driving segment, I also talked about the diffuser. Well, it is right here. That's all that's keeping you sane when you have your top down. And for your other storage spaces, behind these seats are a couple of map pockets, and you'll also find a couple of speakers there by the back, which makes the audio experience in here downright phenomenal. Let's just end it with very minor complaints I have with the BMW Z4. So at this price range, you would expect advanced driver assistance systems, right? But you don't really get any. The only thing you get is a variation of rear cross traffic alert. Then for your cruise control, it has a brake function wherein if you're going past the set speed, it has the ability to kind of brake you and get you back to your set speed, but that's about it. And secondly, because of all the piano black that you have inside this interior, which admittedly looks good, the issue is when you always have the top down, and given Metro Manila streets is full of diesel-powered vehicles, these get dusty so quickly. So just keep a microfiber towel on hand inside your BMW Z4 at all times. So now the question is, how much does the BMW Z4 sDrive20i M Sport cost? Well, you can get this beautiful roadster for 4,890,000 pesos. Is it a lot of money? Yes. But do I think that this car is worth it? And more so, is it worth about paying twice as much compared to a Mazda MX-5 or a Miata? Well, I think yes, because not only do you get a premium badge, but you get a little bit more power, you get exceptional handling, and you get so much more refinement even compared to that. And even if we don't talk about the Mazda Miata right here, the MX-5, this in itself is just one excellent, fun to drive, and also relaxing convertible that is honestly pretty hard to find in Philippine roads nowadays.